Hello and welcome into the 2025 Hitting the Field Black History Month special. I'm your host, Andrew Gregg, and we have a great show for you today, talking about some of our favorite moments of Black excellence over the last year, current big names who are not only making a difference in their respective sports, but off the playing field as well. And we'll wrap up with some of future Black athletes we think will be stars for years to come. So don't go anywhere because the Black History Month special starts right after this.
Things gon' change when I really hit the field. Undefeated chance, man, you know what's the deal. Tryna find a kid, I'm in the field doing drills. Boy, you just a sucker, you ain't never keep it real. 3 rings in my hand, I'm a warrior to the max. When I hang it up, they gon' have to give me plaques. Step up in the building and I only bring the facts. When I make a highlight, they gon' replay, run it back. Okay, always locked in, now I don't got time to lax. Saying he the best, he could take a lap. Batted 1,000 when you check the stats. Boy, is you ready? You ain't gotta ask.
And welcome back. To my left, I'm joined by Layla Wall. To my right, I'm joined by Gabby Giles. How are you guys doing? Thank you guys so much for coming on the Black History Month special this year.
Yeah, I'm good. I'm excited to be here. Thank you for having us.
Me too, yeah. I'm good as well, and I'm so happy to be talking about this, especially in February, Black History Month. I think we all, like, at the table are really excited to go ahead and get everything off our chest and everything like that. So
100%. I mean, I know that I'm excited. So in this segment, we're going to be talking about some of our favorite Black moments over the past year. So Layla, start us off. What was your moment that you wanted to highlight for this calendar year?
Yeah, I'm going to be talking about 2 Black quarterbacks facing off in the Super Bowl as a rematch for the first time ever, with Patrick Mahomes from the Chiefs and Jalen Hurts from the Eagles. They met for the first time back in 2023 and faced off again recently in Super Bowl 59. There have only been 8 Black quarterbacks to make it to the Super Bowl, the first one being in 1988, and only 4 Black quarterbacks have won the Super Bowl, 2 of those being Hurts and Mahomes, which I think is very notable. We love to celebrate Black excellence. We love to see that, and hopefully that number will continue to go up. So I'm going to start by talking about Mahomes. He is the first Black QB to have 5 Super Bowl appearances, which is just insane. 5 Super Bowl appearances. He's only 29. That's just crazy in itself, and he is the 3rd Black quarterback to win the Super Bowl after Doug Williams and Russell Wilson. So as for his performance in Super Bowl 59, it wasn't his best, but despite that, he still holds the record for the most rushing yards by a quarterback in Super Bowl history. And whether you love him or hate him, Patrick Mahomes is a great football player, plain and simple.
listen, I'm not the biggest Mahomes fan, but I will give credit where it's due.
Yes, exactly.
But you know who took the bait, who took everything, is Mr. Hurts.
I'm talking about him next, don't worry. He is the first Black quarterback to win Super Bowl MVP in Eagles franchise history, as well as the first Black quarterback to win both a college football national championship and a Super Bowl. He had an amazing game in the Super Bowl. He had 77% completion, threw for 221 yards, and rushed for 72 yards. And with those 72 yards, he broke his own record for the most single-game rushing yards by a quarterback in a Super Bowl. So we love Jalen Hurts here. He's just great.
Yeah.
Records on records on records.
And it feels like he always steps up to the plate, obviously. You see him in the national championship game. You saw him in the last Super Bowl he played in. He obviously was great in that Super Bowl and then going into the Super Bowl. I know that you wanted to talk about Jalen Hurts and his representation a little bit.
Yeah, Jalen Hurts is a star, and he will always be a star. And I just really want to talk about not only what he accomplishes on the field, but the people behind him, the people representing him, specifically his agent. Nicole Lynn. If that name sounds a little bit familiar, she's the agent of Jalen Hurts, and she's his negotiator. She's the one making sure that after he gets off the field, he's getting paid. These are like things that a lot of people don't really consider, but she's the star, in my opinion. Also, she deserves as much recognition. She is essentially the team behind him, women management team. He's led by all women. And she helped negotiate his contract. Rookie year, he was coming in with $6 million from 2020 to 2023. After 2023, she negotiated his biggest contract. 2024, he's earning now $255 million for his entire contract date and everything like that. But she's able to represent him, and she also has a book. So she's an author. She is the president of Clutch Sports, a Black-owned and women group representing names like Hurts, Draymond Green, and Asia Wilson. And she essentially is a star. She's qualified, she's booked, she has all the sort of qualifications that you need, but she also is able to make sure the money is right, because at the end of the day, the money needs to be right. When you're on the field, you have all these liabilities. Making sure you can come home to a nice place to sleep is always something that I always think about, at least me, I know. But if you guys think about the money, though, the money is just like crazy. Like the jump between his rookie contract to his current contract is wild, but deserving so, as he won the Super Bowl. So it's really nice to see a Black woman have this sort of like stature, and it's really nice because it's like this can be accomplished by anybody else who puts their mind to it and it is able to work. So I really like that Nicole Lynn represents him. And what do you guys think about, like, you know, agents in spaces like that where you may not see everything that goes on, but, you know, the representation is always there. So
yeah, I mean, you mentioned it. You had a lot of great points there. Obviously, Jalen Hurts does the playing on the field, but off the field, she's the one who does the negotiating the contract. She's the one who gets him that money. And like, you can't do it. Like, you can do it without an agent, but it's so much harder. And then you have to sit on those meetings. The agent makes sure he looks over all the papers and makes sure that you're getting what you deserve and possibly more than what you deserve. So obviously, Jalen Hurts is very deserving of a $250+ million contract. $1 million contract, which I think is so crazy to just even say, because that's $250 million. But
yes,
his playing standard has obviously lived up to it, and he just won a Super Bowl. So,
Yeah.
as you highlighted all those accomplishments that you were talking about, Layla, I mean, any thoughts on his representation?
I just think it's great. We love to see women in sports, and we love to see Black women in sports. It's just great, the representation. Especially like for me and Gabby, you know, we're women working in sports. It's great to see that it is possible for us. And of course, Jalen, he deserves all that he gets, incredible player. And it's great to see that all-woman team behind him.
he's not bad to look at either. I will say. I had to throw that in there. I'm sorry. We all know it. We all feel it. But yeah, it's also another avenue that we are able to like look into when we're discussing sports. You know, agents, like being a sports agent. I know that's not often talked about when you are like going straight into education or like looking at what major you want to be in, but sports agency is a really big industry, and it's like not just exclusively for one thing.
And you mentioned people that maybe aren't that bad to look at. Marcus Freeman has garnered a little bit of a following for that, which is my pick as a special moment for, like, maybe not him specifically, but two black head coaches facing off in the National Football semifinal for the first time ever. I just thought this moment was interesting and kind of groundbreaking. Obviously, Marcus Freeman downplayed it a little bit when asked about it, but it is a huge moment for black men in sports. Obviously, you see something like that. The college football semifinal and the quarterfinal had been, or semifinal specifically, had been happening for over a decade, and it had never happened where two black head coaches had faced off in a semifinal. So just the fact that they were able to have representation in that in that semifinal was just awesome to see. And you looked over to both sides, and the leader of that team, the leader of those men, was a black head coach, which I just thought was awesome. And those were two great teams. Like, those teams, like, obviously, like, neither of them ended up winning the national championship, but they both came extremely close. Obviously, semifinal to the final. Notre Dame was one of the best Notre Dame teams we've ever seen. Obviously, they hadn't made it there under Brian Kelly, and Marcus Freeman takes it to the next level, stepping up in his replacement. And then, obviously, we had James Franklin, who had a monkey on his back for a little bit now, but semifinal, he makes it there, and just being able to see it was just so inspiring for me, and I just thought it was great. Any final thoughts, guys?
Yeah, I agree. Just very inspiring. We love to see that.
Yeah. So, I mean, moving off of that, unfortunately, that's all the time we have in this segment, but there are a lot of athletes that are great for a lot of great black athletes, and we're going to highlight some of their accomplishments both on the court and off the court after this.
Getting ready for the next segment on one of our amazing shows. I'm Nick Cohen, host of season 20 of Hitting the Field, and let me tell you about those amazing shows. On behalf of HTF, we hope you're enjoying today's content, but I'm here to tell you about everything else we offer here at the network. Mondays at 4, HTF Bets goes live for season 10 with 3 gamblers that, although it may not always seem like it, are here to help us all earn a little bit of extra money while we watch sports. Diego Ortiz, Tyler Brownrigg, and Andrew Gregg's ball knowledge and fun personalities make this show a fan favorite. On Tuesdays, you all loved it, so we brought it back for season 2. It's Girls Got Game, hosted by Frankie Noble, a show blending women in sports, the biggest sports news stories, and creative segments that make for a fun and engaging show. Next is everyone's favorite sports podcast, The Combine, hosted by who other than Ty Patton, an easygoing, conversational, and technical podcast dropping Wednesdays, also on Spotify at The Combine. Then tune in Thursdays at noon for the network's main show, Season 20 of Hitting the Field, hosted by me. Here, we'll cover any sport, any topic, any story, no matter how obscure. We love some football, basketball, hockey, F1. We also cover baseball, soccer, and we even have to show the UFC love sometimes. Penultimately, TGIF, because Friday is nighttime, hosted by Kathleen Moore and Matthew Bracker. Season 8 of Nighttime is where you'll turn to for all things March Madness, UCF sports, and other collegiate events. We're ending with something brand new. HTFN has never had 6 shows running at once. Also filmed in our new podcast studio is HTFC, hosted by Edgar Rodriguez and Patrick De Leon. Football, or soccer in America, is the most popular sport in the world. Across multiple leagues and cups, soccer is a year-round sport, and HTFC is your news source to stay updated. Also on Spotify, by the way, at HTFC. Outside of our 6-show roster, be sure to tune in to our other content, such as the Studio Days vlog, run by our vlog squad of Brianna St. Jean, Michaela Croker, Ashley Rowe, and Ben Huber. Make sure to follow us on our social medias like Instagram, Facebook, and X to stay updated on all HTFN news. Remember to subscribe right here on YouTube, leave a like and comment. And with that, I think we're ready for your next segment. I'm Nick Cohen. Thank you for your continued support, and back to your regularly scheduled programming.
And welcome back to the Black History Month special. To my left, I have Jeremy. Thank you for coming back to Hitting the Field for this. And to my right, I have Kenny. How are you guys doing? And I appreciate you guys coming on.
Thank you for having us. I'm happy to be here. This is obviously a very special for HTF, so I'm very excited.
Same. I'm, happy to be here, happy to be back, and to talk about Black history.
Yeah, and as I previewed before the break, we're going to be talking about excellence both on the court and off the court. In this specific instance, I have somebody, it might be considered more of a field as it's like grass, hardcore, clay, but Serena Williams, the GOAT of tennis, can we say?
I would say so.
Got my vote.
The GOAT of tennis. Obviously, she has 27 Grand Slams. If I were to list all of her accomplishments, it would take me forever. Obviously, you see on the screen 27 Grand Slams, 73 singles titles, 4 Olympic gold medals. She has every accomplishment you could ever want in the sport of tennis, but not only on the court or on the grass or whatever you want to call it. She was also huge in Black activism during when Black Lives Matter was at its peak. She was one of the biggest advocates for it, as well as during the pandemic. She actually helped raise a bunch of money to get kids masks when they needed them. Yeah. She's just been she's donated a bunch of her money to charity. She is one of the most charitable people that you'll find as an athlete. So just on the field or on the court, whatever you want to call it, Serena Williams, the GOAT.
Yes.
And then also off of whatever you want to call it, also one of the greatest philanthropists that we know. So any thoughts on Serena Williams? How do you guys feel about Serena Williams personally? Obviously, I feel like there is really nothing to dislike about Serena Williams, at least not that I know.
I think there's only one way to feel about an athlete as great as Serena Williams, and that's just complete admiration. Whether it's, like you were saying, grass, clay, wherever, she's going to dominate. And then just her determination to give back is something that is just so admirable. It's something that Black women and girls can look up to, and she can be a role model for that community.
100%.
I would say even, her political activism, stepping out, especially during the Black Lives Matter, really making an effort to show who she is and what she stands for. And, speaking for the people who maybe not, won't have their voices heard. So I'll say, truly the GOAT.
Yeah, I mean, the GOAT, Serena Williams, but also one of the best NBA players of all time. Definitely on that list. Kenny, who do you want to talk about?
I would like to talk about none other than Russell Westbrook, a.k.a. Mr. Triple-Double, a.k.a. the Brody, a.k.a. GOAT Brook. He is currently a member of the Denver Nuggets, but he is most famous for his time on the Oklahoma City Thunder, in which he started his career and played 11 seasons. In 2017, Westbrook won the NBA Most Valuable Player Award for the Thunder. That was obviously the first year he played without Kevin Durant, and he shouldered a lot of the responsibility and weight for that team. He led them in points, rebounds, assists, breakfast, lunch, dinner, anything that he possibly could do to help that team win, he did it. And he's one of my favorite players just because of how hard he plays, his tenacity, everything. He's also one of my close friend Reggie's favorite players. So shout out to Reggie. This one's for you. And due to his intensity and his high energy play, he's become a polarizing figure for NBA fans in recent years. In the social media era, there's a lot of noise. And the performance for a player like Westbrook on the court is often used to determine who he is off the court, and it's attributed to his character. So the media has given him a negative reputation as a bad teammate, selfish player, just unpleasant to be around, which if you talk to any players in the NBA, they speak so highly of him. So I've never understood it. And in recent years, he's had a decline due to his age and just injuries he's collected. So there's been a lot of online criticism in the form of harassment to him, his family, nicknames that I'm not going to repeat because it's just too disrespectful. And with all of that, he has still shown a complete and utter determination to give back and to pay it forward to the next generation. In 2012, he started the Why Not Foundation in his hometown of Los Angeles, which works to uplift and empower those in underserved communities by giving them education resources, occupational training, and access to mental health services. Now, if that's not enough for you to like Russell Westbrook, he also started a charter school called the Westbrook Academy in 2021 to give top-tier education to those kids in southern Los Angeles. Now, when I look at Russell Westbrook, guys, I see a strong black man who stands in his purpose in the face of adversity, and the capital, how do I say this? The capital or the characteristic of that is the Why Not slogan that you see on his shoes, his apparel, everything. And it serves as a reminder to him, to his fans, to his haters, to the media, that he's going to chase his dreams and be himself no matter what. And speaking of being himself no matter what, look at this outfit. I mean, he's got the jacket with the camo, with the Jordan 5s. Queen Latifah knows it's amazing. I know it's amazing. He's a style icon, and I just love Russell Westbrook.
Yeah, I mean, I think you put it beautifully. Obviously, he has gotten a little bit of flack on social media or through whatever platform, but I think that what nobody will ever say is that Russell Westbrook doesn't play hard and isn't, from a personal perspective, people that know him will never say that he's ever a bad person. So I think that's also something to be recognized and just one of the greatest.
Yes.
Yeah.
Speaking of the greatest, the greatest of all time, in your opinion?
Absolutely.
In your
absolutely.
opinion. Who are you talking
We're
about?
going to be talking about LeBron Raymond James Sr. Talking about on the court and off the court excellence. You know, this man, in my opinion, is the greatest dude ever. We're talking 21 All-Star appearances. He's been to 10 finals. He won 4 of them, 4 finals MVPs, 4 regular season MVPs. And so many other, let me not even forget, all-time points record holder in the NBA. He truly, in my opinion, is the GOAT. You know, people can make cases for other people, but I just don't see it.
Have you heard of a guy named Michael Jordan, or is that like not,
No,
in
no,
your
no.
opinion?
We all know Michael Jordan's the fraud of the 90s, okay?
Is that what we all know?
He's the fraud of the 90s. But, you know, that's just speaking a little bit about LeBron James' on-court and how great he's been. But I think the real thing we need to highlight here is his off-the-court specialty. And, you know, one of the biggest things he's ever done is he founded the I Promise School in Akron, Ohio. We're talking he gives kids free bikes, free food. He's helped paying for their college tuition once they graduate, free textbooks. So many opportunities for these students to go out into life and succeed. You know, as he grew up struggling, he knew that once he made it, he wanted to make an impact, and that's exactly what he did. And so forever, he will be, you know, solid in my GOAT position.
Yeah, I mean, you make a hard argument for anybody who would argue Jordan in that case. Obviously, you look at his on-the-court accomplishments, and you see everything. Obviously, you mentioned the 21 All-Star appearances. You mentioned the 4 MVPs. You mentioned the 4 Finals MVPs. Like consistently being the best player on his team. I don't think anyone can argue with that. And then you mentioned off the court, you talk about the I Promise School, and he's just a philanthropist in general, but the I Promise School, like specifically, was such a great initiative and has helped so many kids in the greater Akron area. So I think it's great that you highlighted all of that.
I mean, not even just him, but even his friends who see what these kids are going through, they start helping and pitching in. Like, I remember seeing a video of Drake, like, talking to LeBron, and he's like, you know what, LeBron, I see what you're doing. I'm going to donate $1 million to the I Promise School. And that's just something that someone who has that much of an impact that can, you know, influence other people to try and help out is just something to, you know, be proud of. And yeah.
Yeah, and one thing that I would like to point out is with LeBron's dominance over the last 2 decades, you can see the people that grew up looking up to him that have now become NBA players themselves and have come into max contracts themselves, wanting to continue that ideology of giving back and helping the next generation. I think it's really beautiful, and it's one of the highlights of the NBA.
Absolutely.
And highlights of the NBA, I think LeBron, just in his 2 decades of playing, he is possibly the highlight of the NBA, and that is not just to represent them on the court, but obviously off the court, as we've been talking about. But going into the next segment after this short break, we're going to be talking about some people that hope to maybe see some of the dominance that LeBron, and maybe just touch a little bit of the dominance that LeBron has been able to do over the last 2 decades. We'll be talking about some newcomers that we think will have significant impacts in their respective sports.
You never got me anything for my birthday.
I don't even know what that is. I thought birthdays were every 100 years like the Kids' Choice Awards.
What?
Ah, finally, he's here, man. He's always late.
Who? Marcus?
You good?
I'd give them one of these and one of these.
Behind every on-screen moment is a whole team of engineers and technologists.
And you can be a part of such a team through SMPTE at UCF. You'll join a team of students just like you who are ready to innovate the future of TV and film.
With SMPTE at UCF, you'll be able to connect with local industry pros, learn about new technology in the industry, as well as get backstage experience that really matters. Join SMPTE for a backstage pass to all of this.
We meet every last Monday of the month for our general body meetings. There, we discuss how new technology is being used to create new media, and we get to highlight local professionals and their specialties.
On top of that, we have some site visits planned, so tune into our social media to be notified of when those will happen.
So if you're ready to pull back the curtain and find out what really happens behind the scenes, join SMPTE at UCF.
2 guests of the show, Giovanni. How are you guys doing? I'm excited. I'm excited for this one. I'm excited for this particular one. Looking into the future, we've obviously done past and present. Now we get to take a look into what we think will be the future of their respective sports.
Sure.
How are you guys doing though? Before we start,
it's great. It's a great day.
It's a good day to be black, man.
It's a great day.
I'm excited. Yeah.
Indeed.
Well, okay. I'm gonna start off. You made that point. I'll let you start off. Who is your pick, and who do you think is going to be possibly the face of the NBA for the next, maybe 2 decades?
Yeah.
Maybe LeBron run?
Nah, not Ant, not SGA, not Luka. There's an alien in San Antonio, Wembanyama. Yes, Victor Wembanyama. And before I talk about his accolades, I will be talking about his attributes. He's 7'3". They list him at 7'3", but I see him at 7'4". He's 7'3", 235 pounds. He has the longest wingspan in the NBA. And he has guard-like skills that we've never seen before. We've seen Bobo, we've seen Porzingis. They could shoot, they could pass, but they can't do what Wembanyama can do. So just him, as a physical specimen, we've seen what he can do on the court. But to list off his accolades, he was the first overall pick in the 2023 draft. He's already a one-time All-Star, and he was second in DPOY last season, and he was first this season before, unfortunately, getting blood clots in his left shoulder. And he's first team all-defensive, first team all-rookie, Olympic silver medalist, and his future, he's very, very possible for him to be the future of the league. He has a high marketability, he's likable, he's definitely got the talent to show off for it. He's a freak of nature, and Reggie Miller, he did quote this, he said, at least 3 times a game, Wemby will give you highlights. You'll see him dunk over someone, you'll see him shoot from 40 feet out, and Bron already co-signed him as an alien. If Bron gives you a nickname before you come into the league, that's just, the marketability is there, and I see him as the future of the league.
No, 100%. You mentioned 3 highlight moments a game. I feel like you see him right here. Who is doing that? That is absolutely insane. Obviously, if you're not 7'3", you don't really have the ability to do that. But you mentioned his attributes. He has so many attributes that would make him great. But not only the fact that he's tall and has a great wingspan, he can handle the ball. He can make plays. He's averaging over 3 assists a game. Obviously, not record-breaking numbers, but he's a center. He has Chris Paul on the team. He doesn't need to be the facilitator. But I mean, I completely agree. I think that he can be definitely the face of the league to come. Obviously, you mentioned his marketability. Thoughts?
Yeah, I think a big point out that we haven't really mentioned is today everybody that we've talked about has been American, but this guy's French. You know, which could mean this Black History Month for us, but this just goes to show that the sport could actually go into another direction with people already arguing that it is going into another direction with the European market being crazy. So now we have a guy that has fans in America. We also have this guy, he has fans going berserk in France, which just goes to show that maybe there's a baby alien out there in France that could come and take his spot eventually one day. Who knows?
I want to quote one thing that Candace Parker said. A future of the league, the face of the league, is someone that you want to model, like your kids want to model their game after. Wemby reads his book at 9 p.m. and goes to sleep on game days, man. Like, he's not going out to clubs, he's not partying, he's all about his business, and that's definitely someone that you can see as the face of the league.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of hard to recreate 7-3 as a kid looking up to it, but I mean, I think like what you're saying is definitely being heard by both of us. I completely agree. I think that, I mean, possible defensive player of the year last year. Obviously, he's just making strides in the right direction. Obviously, unfortunate about the blood clots, but for years to come, I think we can count on Wemby as one of the best players in the league.
He'll bounce back, definitely.
100%. But moving on to MLB, I personally have James Wood as my pick to be one of the faces of the league moving forward. Obviously, the MLB is a little bit less, like, let's say, Black dominated than some of the other sports, but James Wood is one of those players that he was in the pipeline for a couple years, and he was a top 15 overall person in the pipeline for an extended period of time. He comes in during his rookie season. He has a great season. He has 78 hits. He has 9 home runs. He has a little bit of power, but he can also run the bases super well. He's a little bit of a Russell Westbrook-esque, where he runs the bases super hard. He will never give up on a play, which is always something that you want to see. He plays the game really hard, which is something great. Like, obviously you see blast out to left field. He's jogging down the bases in this clip, but if you throughout like a lot of videos that you'll see him sprinting down the base paths, and he has the speed to make it happen. So I think that overall, I mean, if you're gonna come into the league batting over 260, it's kind of hard not to just take steps in the right direction. And a Washington Nationals team that hasn't been great for years on end, they're definitely one of the bright spots for them. Obviously, you hope that he doesn't go anywhere else, but I mean, James Wood is definitely somebody who you could see as one of the better players in the MLB moving forward.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I'm not too fashioned with him, but I mean, according to the highlights, it looks like he does play with a certain swag. And, in our community, swag is worth $1 million. So especially with the gap of Bryce Harper leaving the Washington Nationals, now that kind of leaves that spot for somebody to possibly take over. And I also think I looked up that he went to IMG. He's not too far down the road.
Yep.
Homegrown guy. So, I got to support anybody that's from Florida for sure.
Yeah, and you mentioned marketability with Wemby. I think this guy is super marketable, especially for what you just talked about, the fact that he does have that swagger about him. He does make the game fun. Obviously, baseball isn't the most fun sport. There's a lot of unwritten rules and a lot of things that you have to kind of follow without knowing. But this guy kind of brings the fun into baseball, and it's just a great name to watch. Obviously, I hope he pans out with him being my pick. But throughout the 70 games he played throughout last season, you'd like to think that he'd have a chance at it.
Yeah, when you pair up someone who wants it and someone who, like you comparing to Russell Westbrook, you get that type of athleticism and paired up with someone who wants it that bad, that's going to be a great player for years to come.
Finally, we move on to the biggest league. We had to finish with the NFL. We had to finish with one of the biggest Black leagues in all of sports. Who is your pick to be one of the faces of the NFL moving forward?
My pick, who I know will be a future face, is definitely Brian Thomas Jr. over in Jacksonville. Again, 2 hours away from us. This guy right here is insane. He ended the year with over 1,300 yards. He had over 10 touchdowns, which led rookies in both those statistic categories, as well as something that we've not seen in a long time. He was top 3 in the entire NFL in receiving yards. We haven't seen that since 2003 with Anquan Boldin. If I'm not mistaken, half of the studio wasn't even born in 2003. So just, you know what I'm saying? So just going from there, he was only second to Justin Jefferson and Jamar Chase, who happened to be LSU alums. Who else was an LSU alum? Brian Thomas Jr. Who else? Odell Jarvis. It's a brotherhood out there. Us over here, we don't really get to see LSU come to town too much, but it's kind of hard to negate the fact that these guys are pumping out talent like it's crazy. As well as that, I mean, being that he ended the regular season with the 2 statistic categories that he led, he's also a silent assassin. He's not the guy that's in the media too much. but he's a silent assassin with a Swiss Army knife in his back pocket. As you can see in these highlights, this dude's giving you sweeps like Debo used to. This dude's giving you outrights like D-Jack. This dude's giving you fades. How many times do we see a guy with a 4.340 give 20-yard fades, 50-50 balls? He's winning them all. This guy can do anything that the coach needs him. Another thing that we've seen is this guy, he was able to play with a starting quarterback, but he ended the season with the backup quarterback. Not one time did he say, you know, we're losing all these games, I'm going to peel back. Not one time did he say, oh, I got the backup quarterback, I can't produce. This dude still went out there, was scoring touchdowns, catching deep balls, making whatever he had to do possible to make the team win. He did what he had to do. And that's something that I can say, we've seen other rookies, you know, in certain destinations that aren't necessarily winning. They kind of get discouraged, but he was like, nah, man, I'm keeping my head forward, and I love playing football, so that's what I'm going to show. I'm going to show out, and I'm going to do what I do. You know, some people say you got to pop out and show them. That's what he did. You know, it's also he came into the team as like a possible fourth option, you know, with Christian Kirk, Evan Ingram. They get Gabe Davis. And then he ends the season with the number one guy. They just got Liam Cohen. Liam Cohen said, this is the guy we're going to be running our offense through. We have Trevor Lawrence back who can get the guy the ball wherever he needs to go. And I just think that the roof is so limitless for this guy. He's a Pro Bowler in his first year. At wide receiver, that's super rare. People are kind of taking the Pro Bowl a little lightly now, but I still think it's an accolade. You know, that still means you're top in your position in half of the NFL. So that's nothing that we can joke about. But this dude, man, I haven't seen a guy do that in a long time, and it's kind of crazy that he's on a low market team, so he hasn't been able to really be on the highlights too much, but he got it.
I mean, with all the accolades you mentioned, it's absolutely crazy that, like, towards the end of it, you mentioned it, but he was doing this with backup quarterbacks by the end of the season. It's insane that he was putting up stats like this. Obviously, you saw in the highlights, he's being used on jet sweeps. He's catching deep balls. He can do like almost anything, and that's why I don't have any real pushback to your point. Obviously, the LSU point, like, it's kind of hard to fight it at this point. You see Justin Jefferson, you see Jamar Chase, you see all these great receivers. Malik Neighbors, also a rookie, also possibly one of the face of the league. He was the better receiver on that LSU team when they first came out. So
that year,
definitely somebody to look out for in the future. Giovanni, any final thoughts on Brian Thomas?
Man, there's something in the LSU waters. He came out the gates. I saw him in his first game against the Dolphins. He's taking Jalen Ramsey on go routes. So he's definitely a special player. He's got the confidence. He's got the skill. And I see him as a great player for years to come. So, yeah.
Don't even talk about the Dolphins. This is supposed to be a happy show. And on that note, that is all the time we have in our Black History Month special. We appreciate all you guys watching. Thank you to all the crew that worked on it. Thank you for all the guests for coming on. And until next time, we'll see you back on the network on Monday.
Things gon' change when I really hit the field. Undefeated champs, man, you know what's the deal. Tryna find a kid, I'm in the field doing drills. Boy, you just a sucker, you ain't never keep it real. 3 rings in my hand, I'm a warrior to the max. When I hang it up, they gon' have to give me plaques. Step up in the building and I only bring the facts. When I make a highlight, they gon' replay, run it back, okay? Always locked in, I don't got time to lax.